So we are speaking about understanding cultural differences. And see, for some reason, like yesterday I was here at the temple and two persons were receiving the dawn after. So they were concerned a little about, well, they are speaking all this, giving all this information in Chinese language, he said. So we have to explain to him, well, this is not so much that it's a Chinese sort of thing. It's just that I said to him, well, God sort of sent this mandate there, but still it's spreading all over. You know, we have a song that says that. Which song says, "God will take away some salvation." Is it one? Goes again.
That's
You know that song?
Which
The
one?
song we have that say that God wait in the east and salvation in the west. Is that how it goes? Or
yeah, something like that.
yes. Well, so afterwards I thought about it to say, you know, the song. I'm not sure if I'm saying it back to front, but one of our songs says, God is waiting in the east and salvation is in the west, something like that. So I guess one of you probably remember the song and correct me afterwards. So anyhow, so thank you, Grace of Heaven, and the masters and all holy teachers and Buddhas and saints, so and transmitters for this opportunity to do this class. So I'm sure if I will be making some mistakes, but whatever mistakes I made, I hope that heaven will forgive me for my mistakes. So you see, as learning and education is viewed, right, and Asian culture places tremendous emphasis on education. So here in the United States, approximately 10% of the people in California are Asians. However, 30% of the students in the UCLA are East Asian. Are of East Asian descent. Close to 50% of the students in UCI are Asians. So basically what we are seeing here is that great emphasis that is shown on education. So this view on education is probably an influence of Confucianism. Since Confucius was an educator who once said, in education there is no discrimination. Learning is a significant part of Confucius culture. China, Korea, Japan are all heavily influenced by Confucianism. Although Confucianism originated in China, its effect is perhaps more apparent in Korea and Japan culture today, because China went through at least 3 revolutions. So these students memorize Confucius' classic not to learn the way of the sages, but to seek position in government. The upside of this culture is that China became the most advanced society in the world with the most stable government system in history of mankind. The downside is that this practice stagnated Chinese thinking and creativity, and subsequently led to the colonization of China in the 19th century. Confucianism probably is the biggest influence in the education of China throughout the entire history of China. A form of public education system was established later in the Han Dynasty. Not only the elite from the upper class families can study in schools. The common man can also use education as a path to become a better man, known as gentleman. This learning by memorization and one-way teaching are the central characteristics of the East Asian educational system. Even today, in a Chinese-style class, students learn by listening to the teacher and adapt the viewpoints of the teacher. Students generally are not encouraged to ask questions or to challenge the teacher. Asking overly challenging questions may be considered impolite or even offensive. Boys work very hard in school because school prepare you to take the government test, and whoever scores highest on the test could get a job in the Chinese government. In order to give a job fairly to the smartest man, only the test scores counted, not who your father was, or how much money they had, or how good a figure you were. American families generally believe that being a top student in school is not the highest priority. American parents seem to be more open-minded about their children's education. American parents understand that there are more to college education than making it into Ivy League school, yet most affluent parents and students are fixated on Ivy Leagues. The history of education in the United States, or foundation of education, covered the trend in educational philosophy, policy, institutions, as well as formal and informal learning in America from the 17th century to today. The American method of learning is normally characterized by discussions between teacher and students. Students are encouraged to ask questions and to think for themselves. Teachers are often impressed by students who ask the challenging questions. Students are encouraged to be creative and thoughtful, and they should attempt to formulate their own thesis on a given topic. Students are also encouraged to participate in extracurricular activities and take on leadership roles. Well-equipped one, this picture, as you see there, shows one of the schools in the early days of America. Of course, they don't use desks like that anymore. So, and as you see, there's a blackboard, but today there's very few schools have blackboards. They have what they call smart boards. So there's some, I don't know if they're running out of chalks or something, but
What's a smart board?
it's like a whiteboard, but it also can be used like a television. You show, right? And you can write on it,
Projector,
and so
something
yeah,
like your
yeah.
screen
Multi-use.
Yeah. So call it a smart board. Right. So to give you a little historical information, the first American school in the 13 original colonies opened in the 17th century in Boston. The Boston Latin School was founded in 1635 and is both the first public school and oldest existing school in the United States. Evidently, the modern American educational system is closer to the teaching method of the sages. The custom of this temple are influenced by the Chinese educational style. In Chinese-speaking classes, listeners should not ask questions in the middle of the lecture. Questions should be saved for after the class and should be asked privately. In English-speaking classes in America, however, listeners are encouraged to ask questions at any time during the class, depending on the time of the class. So family, so now you view family life. So you see, for Asian families, you always take off your shoes upon entering. For American families, most of the time, the shoes stays on. When Asian families eat, everyone shares all dishes. When Westerners eat, each person has his or her own dish. Okay. So shoes are great. When we have been wearing them for 40,000 years, and needless to say, they serve us well. But do we need to wear them inside? Many cultures think not. Yet, in the United States and other countries, oftentimes the shoes comes inside, attached to the feet of the wearer. Some households have no shoes policy, which can be met with scorns from the unshod shy. Consider the following. Bacteria. Your shoes pick up sneaky bacteria which are then spread about your homes when you wear shoes inside. Toxins. An EPA study reported in Environmental Science and Technology provided the first proof that unhealthy bacteria can be trapped into residents on shoes. Dirt. Bacteria and toxins aside, shoes also just bring in lots of plain old dirt and grime. Wear and tear. More dirt and grit on the hard floor means more wear and tear surface. More dirt and muck on carpets mean more cleaning and scrubbing. Neighbors. For urban dwellers stocked upon each other in apartment buildings, why must you torture the downstairs tenant with a clop, clop, clop of shoes? Not wearing shoes inside make for happy neighbors. Comfort and health. Unless you have a health issue in which the support of shoes alleviate pain, no matter how comfortable your shoes are, your feet is likely happier outside of them. There may
Did you take that picture?
They may be there may be no marker of modern civilization quite like the shoes. Not only does it make clubbing around our concrete world significantly more tolerable and less dangerous, but it also serves as an indicator of the sensibilities and professions and of our sense of style. You can tell a lot by the shoes people wear, from the type of work they do and their income levels, even their political standing. And there's something else. Shoes can tell us whether or not we are at risk of serious health issues. I guess most of us knew that, right? That the shoes can actually tell how healthy a person is.
How do you determine that?
Well, you look at the shoe from behind and the heel, and it depends
No,
on
it's
the shape.
the angle.
And the
Because
angle.
it's the way they're watching.
So if the person have a hip problem, a back problem, and things like that. Alright. While it is not quite as common in the West, most cultures around the world request that you leave your shoes at the door. Not only does it keep those harmful germs out, but it is also a sign of respect for the home, which should be considered a sanitary way from the outside world.
Can I interject here?
Yes.
I think it's one of the very famous
chain masters. He had three. I think it's Hong. What is that? What's his name? He went to Japan for some time. He has 3 pairs of shoes. 1 pair for the temple, and a pair for the the restroom, and 1 pair in his own chamber. It shows how very meticulous and very respectful he is.
So if any one of you are actually wearing the shoes inside, I guess after the day you should change that habit, because it is really an unhealthy practice. So if you notice, most people today have a dog in their homes,
Yes.
and they walk those dogs, and
Yes.
they're supposed to by law pick up behind the dog, which
They
I
don't.
find that's such a bad profession to be picking up. But anyhow, and they don't. Even though they do pick up, the dog leaves some of that
Stay.
stuff stay there, and your shoes is picking it up, and you're taking that inside. If you notice, a lot of people, they go into their homes and they just go straight to the beds, the couch, and all
And they
that
put
stuff.
their shoes right onto the bed,
Yeah.
onto the couch.
So it's not a good practice. So if you are doing that, try to leave your shoes outside. Okay. So connecting with your families by regularly sitting and eating together, 1 meal at a time. Communicating without scolding build harmony. Take a few seconds to say hello to everyone at the table. Set a good tone for the meal. Dinner should be a time for family to sit down together. All great changes in the United States begin at the dinner table. See, sitting at the table seems to be a big problem in America today, where most families are doing 2 and 3 jobs, so their children don't really get to see them. So even though there should be at least 1 day a week where a family should get together and at the table and sit and find out how was your day, how was your week in the case that you are not seeing the children, and discuss things, plan things. So this week this person is going to do this and that and so on. And I think if families start doing that a little bit more, we'll be living in a better society. But there is no communication. Sometimes person leaves home and they did not even say goodbye, and that person, there's an accident or something, and you never see that person again. And we need to be thinking about things like that. So it's so important that families get together a little bit more, and at the dinner table is a good time. Or maybe most people love to watch television, sit down and watch television together as a family and have a discussion maybe about the movie that you watch together, and harmony will be developed better in each household. So viewpoint. So American people regards in the home as an ultimate invaluable place. The law provides us with the right of privacy. When an American etiquette is on visiting another's home, the majority of Americans believe it is important, often very important, that they be able to maintain privacy and confidentiality in commonplace activities of their homes and private lives. Public opinion polls also consistently find strong support among Americans for privacy right in law to protect their personal information from government and commercial entities. Do you have what it takes to get invited back to a friend's home again and again? Do you? Alright? Perhaps you do. You should follow, if you do, you should follow these non-negotiable rules for household etiquettes. Arrive with a gift. Ask about house rules. Give the host personal space. It's very it's a very bad thing for a person to visit another person's home and actually try to take over. He wants to do what you should not be doing, going in the person's refrigerator and trying to serve. We should not do those sort of things. When you get there, you should, let the host take care of everything. If you're asked to do these things, then it's different. But lots of people does that. You go in and you do as if this is your home. Or, like the Mexicans say, mi casa, su casa. So
What's that mean?
My home is your
my
home.
home is your home.
Yeah.
So, but that should not be done unless you have permission to do so. So, proper etiquette should be practiced.
Claudia wants to say that.
Yes.
Can I just say something about the eating as a family together? As a young child, that was the greatest thing I always wanted.
Yeah.
And so I used to take my food and ask my neighbors if I could go and sit with them at their dinner table because no one was home.
Oh,
I just wanted to be together.
That's so sweet.
yeah. Good.
So did you always get invited, or did they
Yeah,
always
they
say
used to let me sit.
She
at
has
the
friends
table.
every corner, every step of the way.
So, because I'm supposed to take up this entire class session, so if you have questions during each slide, it's okay to ask. Yes.
Yes, I want to could share that I'm from Dominican Republic. We have like a day of a week where everybody sits together.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like when I became a vegetarian,
They don't want to sit with you.
So they look at me like crazy. But then I learned how to do my own cooking and share with them. It's a good way to share. 'Cause it's sad, many young kids today they're not being taught.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't want to. They don't know.
It's a bad thing.
Well, like my family, me and my son are the only vegetarian, but I have 4 other brothers. So I do not require them anything, but what most of the time is they accommodate me by coming with me to a vegetarian restaurant for any type of celebration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the sister says, people are not sitting like in the school that I teach in. They, you see the children sit in the cafeteria, and if they don't want something, they throw it on the floor underneath the table. So after breakfast and lunch, and you see the floor, it's amazing. And even on the table, they're drinking milk or whatever, and they pour it on the table because they're not getting any training, any practices at home. So they don't understand etiquette. They don't know. They just get up off of the tables and walk away, and not having any respect for the rest of the people on the table and that sort of stuff. And the conversation is so loud. So, and when you're actually trying to, some people, they take their children, they take their work with them to the table, and they're trying to catch up. And it's very difficult because it's just like chaos, So I wish I could do this a little less in school, but I'll be in a lot of
You
trouble.
should teach them that in
school. Yeah.
I was an assistant preschool teacher and I had like 30 children, 4-year-olds in my class. The first day, lunchtime, give me. It was, and everybody was sitting, and then they would put a plate in front of each one at a time, the tray. So everybody's staring at what they didn't get yet. I shifted the next day, and I said, no. So I had everybody wash their hands and have everything plated, and then everyone sat together. And when they wanted something, I said, I would like, may I have? So when they all sat together the next day, before they ate, they said, thank you, Miss Claudia. We played together. Like, even they were relieved that it was now a calm situation with everybody. It just takes a little.
Yeah, children don't know any better. It's how they were taught from a young age.
Okay, so we're showing respect. So in Confucius, China's greatest sage, established a system of ethics, moral hierarchy and behavior, setting the rules for people dealing with other people, and establishing each person's proper place in society. It is important to show respect to elders and everyone for that matter. Although the Chinese do not use thank you in the same way or with the same frequency as some Westerners, you should always say "xie xie." If someone does something for you, pour you a cup of tea, add food to your bowl, offer you a pear, "xie xie," roughly sounds like "xie xie."
You have to explain to them what
Oh.
谢谢 means.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. "Xie xie" means thank you. And when someone say "xie xie" to you, you would say "xie xie ni," meaning thank you.
That's
"Xie xie."
Mandarin.
Yeah.
What you say 不谢 or 不
不
客气。
是不客气 yeah.
我不客气。
No
不客
thanks.
气 yeah, no, yeah.
No need to thank.
Right, thank you. 谢谢. Okay, alright, so
Claudia wants to say something.
yes, Claudia.
No, I like also I think even like when we have our lunch, I just feel it would be so nice to have the elders come first in the line, you know, and then the children, of course.
Always serve the
That's
elders
proper,
and the
proper,
young
yeah,
ones first.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes the elders are at the front bowing, so by the time they get, they're kind of coming through the line.
Yeah.
So it might be nice to escort them first. Everybody knows escort them first.
But that's
Just make a
proper.
little way for them to
Very
come
nice.
through
Thank you,
gently.
Claudia.
I don't know. I just
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
it would be so much nice.
What-
Food would taste.
The proper way is to let the transmitters
Yeah,
go
right.
first.
Yes, yes. Well, of course, the
Respect,
yeah,
yeah.
respect, yeah, transmitted it, but and then elders.
But usually
Speaking
when
about
people
elders,
see
so-
food, they just run.
but that would be better.
Mark?
Yeah. What's the idea behind dim sum? Because it's a really exciting experience.
What is so exciting about it?
I guess.
You have the best to
That's a
explain.
Cantonese
Yeah.
tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It actually
It's like
means
tapas, right?
snacks.
You know, like tapas.
What is your name?
Snacks.
Yeah, snacks.
点心.
What is your name?
Hi, my name is Winnie.
Winnie? Okay, Winnie, let's hear your view.
Well, the excitement of dim sum,
Yeah?
it's about taking your time and enjoying all of the different dishes, enjoying it amongst friends and family and loved ones, and you eat it slowly. So it's meant to be like a drawn-out process. Like, you just sit for hours, talking, eating, drinking tea.
Usually they have time limit, you know.
Nowadays, yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like the English afternoon tea
Oh, yes,
idea.
right, yes.
Well, yeah, that's true, but it's also very similar to the Mediterranean cultures. Like if you go to, you know, Greece or Italy, especially, you know, they'll sit down and eat like all day. You know, I mean, but it's not, you know, eat all day, but it's just like enjoying, and it's so it's like because it's, you know, it's like slow, you know, slow lifestyle. You know, they enjoy,
Socializing.
yeah, they enjoy that. So, you know, but even then going back to the Chinese, you know, the Dianxing culture, I mean, it really started with the dynasties. I mean, it wasn't, you know, I don't want to say dim sum didn't exist, let's say, you know, 2,000 plus years ago during the Han Dynasty. It really got started, I think, later on during the Tang and Song dynasties, when the emperors and the wealthy, you know, set a trend, you know, a social norm trend, you know, pretty much like the English tea, afternoon tea. The English didn't really start drinking tea until, you know, maybe during the Victorian age, you know, when they colonized, you know, India, and then, you know, they brought back some tea leaves and said, hey, you know, this is good drink, you know. So it really started with the Victorians.
So, yes, yes.
You know, I mean, prior to that, you know, it didn't exist,
Yeah.
right? So you know, it's just a cultural thing, and, you know, just evolved over time, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Yeah, they also have what they call the the tea ceremony.
Yes, yeah.
Japan.
Mostly Japanese.
Oh, Japanese.
does
Well, Chinese has it too.
Yeah,
It's
but
called
not.
茶道. 茶道. It literally means the way of the tea.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what it means.
Yeah. And speaking of tea, if you ever have an opportunity to go to one of those places to see when they have a tea ceremony, it's a real beautiful thing. And you know, so I guess afterwards you'll fall in love with tea. So try to see one of these days. So okay. So in the United States, greeting are formal and the oldest person, head of the household, should always be greeted first. So when you go in, even though your friends, you're visiting someone, when you get in, you know, naturally if that friend opens the door, you will greet that person. But when you get into the house, you should always look for that person. If their parents is at home, it's important that you greet the parents in a more formal manner first. When first introduced to someone, one should address and be addressed as Miss, Mrs., Miss, or Mr., followed by the surname. So instead of going in as you're a guest, and unless you have permission, you should not just walk in and say, hello Victoria, because Victoria is not your friend, so you should say, unless she gave you permission to call her Victor by her first name, you should actually use the last name. So, because once a relationship has been established and one may request to be addressed by first name. In particular formal situations such as a request can be considered a sign of trust and intimacy. While professional, academic, religious, military, political titles such as judge, colonel, mayor, reverend, senators, and doctors are often used in social situations. So, otherwise, please use Miss, Mrs., Miss, or Mr. as also considered appropriate, especially when one is unsure of such credentials.
Why don't you bring up how we address the senior transmitters
Yes.
and lectures in the temple?
So, so like when we are in the temple, we don't go up to say transmitter Jin. There is a formal way you say Dian Chuan Su. Dian
Chuan Si. That's for the transmitter.
Transmitter. Alright, so because he's the senior, and he's the most senior in all.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so we
Well, I don't know about Taiwan.
No.
Is he the most senior in Taiwan?
And Kai is transmitter.
Probably.
Probably. Because, probably, but however, here in our temple, he's our senior transmitter, so we should always address him with his formal title. Okay, because even his sons are here and they address him properly. And the lecturers, we, how do you say?
讲师.
We address the lecturers as Jiangsu.
But
yeah.
when we speak English, we just say lecture, like lecture
Yeah,
Thai,
like lecture Kai, lecture Thai.
Sinto.
So we should not just come up to say lecture so and so. We should always use the term or the title before we use their formal name. So we should say lecture.
Temple Master.
Yeah, you can call her Temple Master Wang.
Yeah.
We'll always call people by their last name and based on their ranks and titles in the temple. Like we don't know, a male is termed Shong, like for brother, Shong. Or if you don't remember, you just say Brother Mark or Brother Edison, okay? Sister would be for female, okay? Like Sister Virginia, Okay.
Yeah.
Or Sister Claudia. All right. So that's how we term people. That's the proper way.
Or not in terms of the transmitter, we could also use the English term to say master so and so.
Right.
So, okay. Yeah. So, people shake hands or just say hello. While it is important to thank people and praise others, most people don't usually respect brown nosing. No, a lot of people, you know, because they want to get something from that person, we say they're brown nosing. They go to say things that they're not speaking from their heart. They're basically speaking from their mind, because their mind say, I need to get this position, I need to get this, or I need to get that, or I need this person to do this for me. So you say they're brown nosing, and a respectful person should not be doing brown nosing. Yeah. Be genuine in your thanks and in showing your respect to other people's effort. Speak from the heart. Even sometimes as simple as it's always good to see you can mean a lot to show lots of respect. It doesn't need to be complicated. Remember to thank your parents, your siblings, your co-workers, your classmates, your friends, teachers and neighbors. Say good morning and good evening and good night to your neighbors, because in case of an emergency, your neighbors are closest, they would be the ones to come to your aid. So do not pass your neighbors. If you're in school and the janitors are there, say good morning and good afternoon to the janitors. They are there to pick up behind you. If you're in a building and you same thing, you don't ignore your janitors. Alright? You're in your whatever, the people who keep things together should be respected.
Now in the temple we don't shake hands and we don't hug. Okay, and we don't kiss each other on the cheek. Okay. I mean male can hug and female can hug, but not reversed. Alright? So in the temple we say hello by, just a bow, a simple bow. Hi, good morning, like that. Alright? Of course, every country, every different race has their own culture. For instance, when Thai and Kai went to New Zealand, they came back and told us something very interesting. And what did they do, Kai? They rub noses. Okay, just like the Eskimos. Right? Something very interesting.
Well, that's the native.
Yeah, that's the native New Zealand people. Isn't that cute? I never knew that. They rub noses. But think about it, you're rubbing noses with a stranger. I wouldn't feel comfortable.
If you want to show someone that they are valuable and that we respect them, go the extra mile without expecting a reward. Be sincere. It is sometimes common in the United States that if you see a person when you are walking down the street or anywhere in a building to say a friendly phrase. Hi, how are you doing? Etiquette is protocol, rules and behavior that we memorize and that really bend or encompass individual concern and needs. Manners embrace society acceptable behavior, of course, but also much more than that. They are an expression of how we treat others when we care.
You have another
Time's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have.
Yeah, you have a second half.
Okay.
You have a lot of time.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, so but until we have about 2 minutes before we break, so good questions, yes.
Yeah, in Chinese we do the last name. In English we do the first name.
We should always be the last name.
What?
If you know the last
In
name.
English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. first name you should use only, like say, when you have, if you have a relationship or there's some sort of intimacy between you and that person.
So lecture Jing.
That's why
Yeah.
we use
Oh,
the first
I see
name
what you mean. Yeah,
to
yeah.
differentiate.
Yeah, good. And maybe we should have a list so that those who don't know who is who, how we address each person and so forth. That's a lot.
You say yo.
You mean the present?
Oh,
Right? You mean present,
right,
like yo.
No. That means say hey.
Hey. Oh.
See, it is hard to distinguish between them because they have the same last name, they're
Yeah,
brothers.
yeah, yeah.
How do we
Hi.
distinguish? I usually, well, it's for us because we're informal, we just call him Thai. But I guess formality-wise, we are supposed to call each other by the last name. I prefer people calling me by my first name.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm not used to people. A lot of people call me just Sito.
Yeah.
Hey Sito. I said, huh? It's weird, you know what I'm saying? I mean, how would you like to be called Jin?
Yeah.
Right? Same thing. It's weird. But a lot of people call me just Sito.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care, you know.
See, according to the rules of etiquette, it's only children that should be addressed by their first name, but an adult.
So in English, it's flexible to use the first and last name. So I thought-
Yeah, in the English class
Sister.
we're very informal, so
Okay.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, children will say Miss Claudia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah,
in Caribbean.
out of
that's
respect, they
basically
should.
To be taught
acceptable
proper
because
way, yeah.
There's a handle, so to speak, to Claudia. They didn't just say Claudia, they said Miss Claudia. So that's basically acceptable. Yeah.
Use the first name.
Yeah.
Back to the situation you said that we are not supposed to hug in a temple, but sometimes when we have new person coming in
Yeah,
and they
new
don't
people,
know,
yeah.
I don't know if we just kind of stop there and
Yeah.
then that would be embarrassing, right?
When I'm in the temple
Uh-huh.
and they come and hug me, I would say, I'm so sorry, we don't hug
Hug
in the temple.
Mm.
But if I'm downstairs and people, you know, they're just used to the, you know, when they meet you, they just give you a little hug. So I didn't want to be weird, so I just, you know, let them hug, but not like the close hug. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the person.
Fairy hug.
Yeah, like a bear hug, I wouldn't feel comfortable. But if it's like female and female, you can't hug in the temple. Male and male, you can. But then how many male and male hugs? You know what I'm saying? Claudia?
Yeah, I never. I used to practice not handshaking or hugging or anything. So I would either have something in my hand, but you know. But the thing is to extend the heart, and they feel the heart. So when the heart is there, no need for a hug.
Yes. They have to understand in the temple we don't do that. Because if we don't tell them, they'll continue to do that. Okay.
There's a way to hug without.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to continue. Then I don't have a lot more slides, so if you can hold your questions to the end, and then we can go until 12:20. Okay, so culture is mostly based on philosophy and religion. So American culture is a composition of diverse traditions. 20 years ago, if I were to say the word feng shui, very few Americans would know what I'm talking about. We use the word karma like it has always been an English word. Does anyone know why we say long time no see when it appears to be an completely grammatically incorrect? Some say long time no see is a direct translate. As much as we use it almost every day in our lives, it is actually grammatically correct. Since it is a direct translate, it is grammatically approved. Every day we like early on I spoke about brown nosing, and if we look at the principles of etiquette and we follow them correctly, it is very easy for us to actually follow the rules of the temple, because there are rules and regulations in the temple. And if we are not taught about etiquettes on the outside, it might be a little difficult to follow the rules and the regulations of the temple. And to me, I think that the rules and the regulations of the temple are more important than the rules on the outside. Because on the outside we are following rules of men, so to speak. But inside the temple we are following the rules of heaven, the rules from God in heaven. So our rules in the temple are very important. So this culture, since it says, even though we are as a religion, but still there are so much regulations that we have to follow. So there's a little form behind each one of these regulations. According to the Chinese culture, the human body is regarded as the most sacred part of a person's life. The body was given by one's parents and one must protect it at all costs. Therefore, in ancient China, when a person passes away, the body is always buried. Chinese people thought a human being is composed of three hue. When, and seven pu.
They're kind of like spirits or something. I don't know. How do you explain those?
Like spirits, yeah.
It's like
We all have a seven spirit inside of our body.
The Hun and Pe represents the yin and yang.
Yeah.
The Hun are the yang. The Pe is the yin. I think so. And they correspond. The yang part correspond to what we call the soul, the soul quote unquote aspect, the spirit aspect, whereas the Pu represents your life force aspect corresponding to your 5 organs. You get it? 5 organs? You know what the 5 organs are, right?
Yeah.
Heart,
lungs,
liver,
spleen.
kidney, and spleen. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 5 organs. And that's the yin part. Get it?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's the technical detail.
7 pu, yeah. Right. When a person dies, the hue leaves the body and heads towards the yellow spring or heaven. The pu stays with the body forever. As such, cremation is not very popular and is out of the question for many families. So, when a person dies, and the question remains, like some cultures bury their dead in a few hours, right?
Usually that's the Jewish
yeah.
and Muslim, yeah.
So,
Usually 24 hours or so.
Right.
Yeah, 28 or 48. Yeah, that's probably true.
Well, actually, I read an article, probably within a day or two about a person's passing away. I think it's probably our Buddha nature or our soul are still very much, in the body. So it's not very recommended to do anything to the body because then they will feel the agony, the pain. That's what I heard. In China, there's a tradition. When a person passes away, then the person's body has to be cleansed.
Right.
Yeah, and then they will be dressed in some kind of special costume. Yeah. But now in Buddhism, they don't really encourage that type of. No, have to wait probably a day to do that.
Well, even in Jewish culture, they do dress the body too. They wrap them, like when Jesus died, right?
Yeah.
They wrap them in that white, whatever, linen cloth or whatever. Anyway, but anyway, it's interesting. I mean, that's it's kind of.
They still do it?
Yeah. In Islam, yeah. People don't like to talk about death, but it's an interesting study field. There is a field of study, by the way. I forgot the name of it. There's a name for some kind of logi. It's-
don't want to deal with it.
No, because yeah. Well, but we're gonna have to face it. Each one of us has to face it sooner or later. Preferably later, but we still have to face it, right? We can't, say, hey, I'm gonna be an immortal. But it's interesting how different cultures treat, this question of death. Certain Indian Hindu, Tibetan too, and it speaks. I don't. It's not because of Buddhism. It's not because of Buddhist tradition. It's even more ancient. But they don't bury the deceased. You know that, right? I mean, you know that, right? I mean, certain American Indian, Native American Indians. A lot of times, I mean, they don't quote unquote bury. They do. There's a term for it. It's called air burial. Air burial.
Yeah.
Them say literally they put them on posts. Exposed to the air and then let it rot and feed the animals or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's up there mainly. Well, one of the reasons is to keep it
animals.
away
Yeah,
from the
yeah, yeah.
animals.
But the birds will get that. Vultures. Vultures will have a feast.
Yeah.
But it's a dead body, right? I mean, care. I mean, would you? I guess the choice is, would you want to be like that, or would you want to be 6 feet under, in a casket? That sooner or later, I mean, they don't, you go to the funeral homes and you order a casket, they'll say, oh, we'll guarantee it for 50 years or 100 years, it won't leak, okay, or whatever, I don't know. It depends on the state of your embalmment, and, they inject all that, I don't know, what's that, formaldehyde or whatever, I don't know, whatever, preservatives, okay? Eventually, I mean, maybe not 50 years, 100, 200, I don't know, several hundred years, it's going to decompose, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? It's going to attract what? Worms and bugs and God knows what. So, it's still going to be eaten, quote unquote, by somebody or something, some creature. Whether it's through the worms 6 feet under or in the sky by the vultures or whatever. The Hindus, the Hindus, the ancient Hindus, and I think Tibetans too. Yeah, they use cremation, but that's more more a little bit later. But supposedly, have you guys heard the term charnel? CHARNEL, charnel force. You guys know? 死灵 实体的死灵 You guys heard of that? Yeah, you guys heard of that term? Charnel force, or charnel ground, charnel force. The ancient Hindus, they don't bury their dead. It's very interesting. They don't bury it. They don't, because they also based on Hinduism. The Hindu tradition, whatever. when a person is deceased, the corpse, they don't embalm it. They don't wrap them up in cloth or whatever, linen, silk. They take, no, that's later. Cremation, they do that. Yeah, that's true. But that's because it's a question of hygiene or whatever, whatever. But what they do is they drag the bodies, they dump the bodies in the open ground, what they call it forest, right? In open ground, and they literally feed the corpse, the cadavers, to the animals. They let the tigers, the wolves, the whatever, the jackals, the vultures, the birds, the worms, the bugs, eat them. So Hinduism, and the reason why they do that is that because the Hindu tradition is that, they have a, it's cultural, since we're talking about culture. Their view, they have a very interesting view because their view is not like the body is something, like as opposed to, let's say, maybe the Jewish tradition or the Islamic tradition, where they say, oh, we have to preserve not preserve, but somehow bury the dead and not violate it, right? Or something like that, right? Whereas the Hindu perspective is, to them it's not a violation. To them that they say that the body is just part of the elements of the earth, the fire, the wind, and the water. So that, since our human bodies, physical bodies, are composed of those constituents, they call it the four constituents, right? 四大, right? Four constituents. Then when it dies, quote unquote, it still has to return to those four constituents. So they leave it out there. And to them, they say, hey, we're doing it as charity. we're giving food to the animals. So for them, it's like, it's not a big deal to say, oh, you could observe, you could go to the charnel forest or ground and say, hey, watch a decomposing body being literally torn apart or eaten up by, whatever, either animals or bugs or vultures or whatever. That's for them, that's not considered a gross violation or disrespect to the dead. You know what I'm trying to say? So every culture has a different perspective. Whereas, maybe most Western cultures, they say, that's gross. They say, that's disrespectful. You could, hey, in the U.S., we have cadaver forests too, that? Cadaver forest. Certain, I forgot some parts of the country, they use that for quote-unquote medical studies, forensic science. Yeah, they want to, not experiment. They literally, but people have to give their consent, obviously, the deceased. And then they leave the bodies out and they do, not experiments, they do observation to see
Anatomy.
how long does the body decompose and how, what kind of bugs eat them or, whatever. And it's quote unquote for science, so that forensic science can, when they investigate murder, they can say, hey, we discovered this body, and because we know forensic science, we have cadaver forests, we know, oh, this body's been here decomposed for X number of days because of the rate of decay, all that stuff, okay? But what I'm trying to say, that's more science, okay? But I'm saying the Hindu culture, the ancient Hindu, and Tibetan too, but the Tibetan's a little bit different. They chop your bodies into, I forgot, 7 parts, 9 parts, I forgot, something like that, there's a number, and then they leave it out in the plains for the animals and the vultures to pick on. It's, we look at it this way, we say, oh, that's gross, that's disrespectful, but every culture is different, you see what I'm trying to say? So the Chinese culture, they say, hey, that's gross, man, it's like, you're disrespecting the dead, man. See, but then, it's ultimately, the body has to, what the Bible say? What's that? Dust to dust? No, what's it? Ashes to ashes and whatever. So eventually it's going to decompose, right? Eventually. It may take time, but when you guys have a chance, you could go see the charnel forest. They don't have it now. They don't have it now. And I don't think it exists anywhere now. I think that's too gross for most people. But you could observe, and that's how a lot of the Hindu, what they call the practitioners, people say, hey, young people, you guys are so infatuated with, with the bodies and, all that stuff. Hey, come on, come with me. We'll observe the bodies rotting, and then you'll be so grossed out. You'll say, my God, I didn't know it's that bad, because come on, it doesn't take, brain surgeon to figure out that after a week, a body out in the sun and the elements. What happened first, right? The first week, your body will get bloated. That, right? Yeah. Bloats. Disgusting.
Yeah.
And then second week, it bursts open. So all the blood and fluids start gushing out. Third week, the bugs, the worms, the flies, they build nests. They say, food. They build nests. And then the fourth week, you have worms eating, they're growing in there, they're having a great time.
We're going to have lunch soon.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. But and then you see the vultures and the animals. The vultures go for the eyes. The eyes are the yummy part. Yeah, because that's the softest part. And that's why, birds have great eyes too, because they eat the eyes. So anyway, so they go for the eyes. And then the carnivores, the tigers, the jackals, the lions, you know what they go for first? They don't go for the muscles. They're smart. They go for the organs. They go for the liver first. Liver, kidney, intestine. Gross, huh? Gross, huh? So, anyway, yeah.
Winnie has a question.
Oh, not a question.
Oh, comment. Okay.
Say, I think Disney explained it best in The Lion King. It's the circle of life.
Oh, okay.
So, I know death is like number 2 in American fears. Number one being public speaking. Apparently. I don't know if that's changed since then. But I think when was it Mufasa explaining it to Simba?
Lorenzo's friend.
Discern
No,
blood.
she was here before him.
Yeah, she.
Yeah, well,
That's a nice
American
Disney
Indians are
way
something.
Because they see
explain.
But so we should kind of like step back and be a little bit more, I don't say detached to our bodies. I mean, in the sense that, yeah, you still have to maintain your body while you're alive when you're cultivating, obviously. But we should not be narcissistic. Right? Narcissism? Narcissism?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, my body is so good, man. I have to, I have to, whatever, I have
Sure.
to, I mean, you have some people fear that they cryogenics. Cryogenic, you guys know what cryogenic? Deep freeze. They freeze you in dry ice or whatever, or frozen carbon dioxide, whatever, in the hope that, hey, someday in the future, I'm going to be resurrected, Well, your soul's not there, or your Buddha nature is not there, so it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. It'll be a zombie, be a zombie, yeah, it'll be a zombie, like The Walking Dead, But anyway, but the point is, we are so attached to our physical body, right? Now, it's very interesting how the Western culture, since the time of Renaissance, pretty much, when you have these, Michelangelo, David, Moses, all that stuff, we fall in love with the form. Well, it really started with the Greeks, but that's okay. But the point is, there's a limit. We cannot. I mean, yeah, you can admire that. The physical body is we can marvel at it, but you also have to be. You cannot be attached to it, right? Okay. And why? If we have attachments, that's the slippery slope that will lead us to what? Samsara. Right? Samsara, right? Anybody know what samsara is, right?
Reincarnation.
Yeah, samsara.
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation. So we have to be detached. Because why? Because our bodies are ultimately not real. you stick around for 100 years, right? If you're lucky, right? Right? If you don't believe me, go to the China forest. Look at the bodies get bloated and whatever, blow up and whatever, get eaten. It's like, my God, it's gross. So my God, well, go back to nature, right? You're born from nature. You're going to return to nature, right? Your physical body is not eternal, right? There's one. So the whole idea is to reinforce that notion of that there is some, our Buddha nature that's eternal, right? So that's the thing that we should stress, right? Unfortunately, in today's society, not just today, whatever, but we tend to emphasize what we could see, right? We could see, touch, right, which is our body, right? And we tend to ignore or neglect something that we don't see, which is our true nature. But the very fact that you can listen to me right now and understand what I'm saying proves that you have that quote-unquote invisible or hidden being, right, that Buddha nature, right? Anybody can listen to me, right? Hopefully there's not a person who can't listen to me, right, or can't hear me, right? So Buddhists all say, we humans are such a strange lot because we are all upside down, right? We're all upside down. We focus and emphasize so much on what is not real, and yet we ignore and neglect what is really real, right? So ultimately, it's not that we don't disregard the body. No, that's not. But we should not be so attached to it that we become narcissistic to it, right? Because what we do, then that's the path, the slippery slope towards samsara, right? Right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, in my country, the Dominican Republic, when a person dies, in certain areas they do a drum ceremony, and the dead person possess one of the people in the
procession.
In the session, they possess the person who can channel the spirit, and they talk through them. Because and that's very common.
How quickly do they do this type of ceremony after that?
And they recommend to bury the dead after 3 days. because the person, some people have come alive even after everything they did. So to make sure, they're not very alive, because there's cases that you see, you bury people alive and you see the buses. So, and I also read the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Bardo.
And they recommend that we should get prepared to die, like telling our story to somebody, to get forgiveness.
Yeah.
And if you don't find anybody, to tell it in the ears of the cow. But yes, express your sins.
By the way, to go back to Virginia's point, usually our what we have souls, whatever you want to call that. Well, in the Tao, we say there are what we call the consciousness, right? The 8 consciousness. Okay, so there's number 8, right? Alaya, right? Alaya Si, right? The 8th consciousness, or we call it Alaya consciousness. Usually, that's the last vestige or consciousness to depart a dying soul. Okay, I mean dying being. Yeah, you know that? So, and usually it takes about 24 hours. That's why, even though if you use the EEG, right? Electroencephalography, whatever you call that, okay, you measure brainwave, right? So even though the brainwave, may not register, okay, but there is still some quote unquote some kind of consciousness remaining in the body within the first 24 hours. You know what I'm trying to say? Okay? So that's why in Buddhism and Tao we say, you usually don't disturb the body for the first 24 hours or so. That's the reason why. Okay? It's from Buddhism. This is in Buddhism. We talked about that. Okay? So it's the 8th consciousness that's still, it's the last. You can say it's the last one to leave. Okay, to leave the you can call it part of the soul, whatever, but okay.
Okay, so going back on philosophy and religion, say as per religion, China is a multi-religious country. Taoism, Buddhism, Islamism, Protestantism, and Catholicism have all developed quite a following in the country. China is referred as the Middle Kingdom, in an indication of how central China have felt themselves to be throughout history. There are cultural and linguistic variations in different regions, but for such a large country and culture is relevantly uniform. However, 55 minority groups inhabit the more remote regions in the country and have their own unique cultures and languages and customs. Demography, China is the most populous nation on earth, with over 1/5 of the world's population. Of these people, 92% are Han Chinese. The remaining are 8%. 8 are people of Zhong,
Uyghur.
yeah,
Uyghur. That's Uyghur.
Hui, Yi, Tibetan, Mao, Manchu, Mongol, Boyi, Korean, and other non-nationalities. Sichuan, that's what he said. Sichuan is the central region, is the most densely populated province. So, and in conclusion, we are capable of understanding cultural differences. Are we capable of understanding cultural differences and accepting each other? We just have to take that step. So, the great Chinese sage Mencius had once said, When the world is drowning, help it with Tao. He did not say help it with culture. He did not say help it with education. He did not say help it with Confucianism. He did not say help it with the law. He said help it with Tao. So what is Tao? Tao is the conscience and wisdom, and is beyond culture, beyond race, beyond ethnicity, beyond language, beyond educational background. When Tao prevails, that is to say, when everyone returns to each person's own conscience, the world is in great harmony. Our world has reached a fork in the road. Problem is, the fork road is not yet constructed. The question is, which road do you take? The well-trodden road that is full of pain, struggles, disaster, or the new road that gives new hope that still needs to be constructed? The old road is built on the foundation of negativity, distinctiveness, domination, limitations and pain, suffering, struggles, and disharmony. The new road is based on love, harmony, excitement, joy, fulfillment, and support of those traveling it. The new road is also unlimited, constructive, work with nature, and benefits the whole planet and everything that lives upon it. The choice is ours, both individually and collectively. So, we have spoken about culture, and basically I use two cultures, Chinese culture and the American culture. Why? Simply because we use Mandarin as the preferred or the main language in the temple. And we are all here in the English section of the class, so it was proper to use those two cultures, whereas I could have use some other culture. So, but as it is, the Western and the Eastern cultures are the two main cultures or dominating cultures on the planet today. So, I hope that the explanation was proper and important, and someone got some little thing from it to say, and especially the concluding part where Mencius explained how important it is to understand culture don't have anything to do with it. Tao is more important, and we should not discriminate. We should not, because we have to look at everyone as brothers and sisters, because we all came from the same place. No matter where we were born, what country we are from, what ethnicity we are from, we are all brothers and sisters. And to explain it more literally, every one of us bleeds and our blood is the same color. So culture should not have anything to do with it, though it's an important topic that we should look at each person as a brother or a sister. And we should always have great respect for the elders. Like when I was growing up, every person, every adult, a male was an uncle, every female was an auntie. We're losing that sort of thing. Children today don't even have respect for their children. All these little things are so important to show why the temple or the Tao is so important. So our job is based on the song this morning, that Holy Teacher is so concerned about us, and he's hoping that we can help a little more to bring more people into the temple, into the Tao, so that we can have this great harmony. Without it, whether we are going to be part of the suffering, because we are in the communities, and people, one person's pain could be our pain too, because whatever that situation is, we can also suffer from it. So it's important that we try a little harder to bring people in. Yesterday I brought one of my martial arts student, and he could not even come into the. He just stayed outside. He could not go into the temple because he's into he's in some sort of a religion, and he just could not pass the door to go into the temple. And he was there all the time with all the preparation and the Dao ceremony, but he just could not come in. So
Did he go for the ceremony?
no.
Oh.
He just stayed outside. He gave him books to read and so forth, but he just could not come into the temple. Now, this is the problem. Religion, even after reading the books, he read 2 of the books while he sat there. That's to tell you how long we were here. And he read 2 of the books from the shelves there, and he said, wow, this is really interesting. He said, well, it's not too late, you're here already, so let's do it. And he just would not come because there is something, like the notion is that if a person have an affinity, it's easy to get them into the temple. So naturally, maybe he don't have that affinity to come in, but I'm not giving up on him. Eventually, I'll probably get him to come in. So if we happen to encounter that sort of reaction from someone we're trying to bring into the temple, don't give up. Keep at them. Don't pressure them, but occasionally ask them about it. Try to get them to get here. Like at the school, they have 2 parent their children. I'm trying to bring for 2 years now, and every time they say yes, I'm going to come. I say, listen, it's not a problem. You live in Brooklyn, but when school is over, I will bring you to the temple and I'll take you back to Brooklyn. And okay, I'll come. I could go on a Wednesday, I could go on any day, even though the days when I have to leave school to go to Queens and do my martial arts stuff, I'll sacrifice and take you. So they say, okay, I'll go next week, Wednesday. Wednesday comes, there's always a problem. Something comes up over and over. But I still have not given up. Every week, twice a week, or maybe once a week, I say, are you going to come with me next week or so? I keep asking. So, because I'm really asking people who I see that there's something good about those people. So, so I don't just ask anyone, but the people who I perceive to be good people, I'm trying to get to come. So I'm sure most of you are doing the same thing. So let's keep trying, and so the holy teacher don't have to keep crying and being concerned, and the other Buddhists calling him a fool because he's not giving up on us. So if he's not giving up on us, we should not give up on ourselves and the other people. Right? Yes.
I agree that culture and race and ethnicity is not spiritual. It's just given to you.
Yeah.
Maybe because of your karma.
Yeah.
But and we should not discriminate against anybody because of that, because somebody may be different. But on the other hand, I think it's extremely important that everyone be proud of their race and culture, because many studies show that even in the poorest of neighbors, in public schools, those children who have the strongest racial and ethnic identity are the highest achievers, because they are proud of what they are, whatever God or gave them, they are proud of what they are, and they achieve the most. But those who are confused and want to be something else that they are not, they are losers. And I think that's important. I think that there is beauty and benefit in diversity, and I think those who push to merge everything are doing most people a lot of wrong. That's just my point of view.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to share actually, like before receiving Tao, I actually was scared to enter the temple. Like Johnny said, his student, like I couldn't make it. But like even the first Dharma class, I couldn't make it. Like I just couldn't do it. And then I'm glad like the second time came around, I did come, like finally, so it's, yeah, so.
No. Yeah. Yes.
I just want to share, I had lived in Shenzhen, China for about 6 years ago, and it's right next to Hong Kong. And what I found is, I believe it was like 12 or 16 million people there, but the level of crime in comparison to New York City was just so much lower. And I think we may say, oh, the conservative and so many rituals and things. I think there's a level of just part of the culture of respect. That's why I brought up about the dim sum. Chinese people love to eat. Everybody loves to eat. But it's like you said, you're going to visit something, you have to bring something. And so when you bring, well, sit down, let's have something to eat. Let's have some tea. And they seem to emphasize some of the more humanistic issues in humanity. Everybody has to eat. So let's eat together, have fun. You know, everybody has to do these things, and so they all do it collectively. And one of the things I'm seeing now, because they only have like 2 border crossings from Hong Kong into Shenzhen, is they're slowly opening up, because when you go into Hong Kong, you see the younger people are more individualistic and it's kind of cute and fun. But I think there's a concern about that warring between the different cultures, and hopefully with the Tao, it'll tone down. You know, you were talking about the narcissism of the Western cultures, because there's not that middle road, there's not that balance. It's that kind of extreme thing. Just some of my observations, that's all.
Yes.
Yes, but I want to share that I can see that like American culture, it's not a culture, because it's basically immigrants.
Yeah,
It's a mix of
everything. So,
It's important to, like, we're supposed to be a culture plus community equals you. So you are what your environment and you know your beliefs. And so everybody has their own.
But we can eliminate most of the crimes, and so like you were speaking about, yes, if people start living more together, you know, having more respect for each person, and so, but there's so many individuals, okay? So anyhow, it's time, so thank you for this opportunity. If I made any mistakes, said anything wrong, I'm asking heaven and people for forgiveness. I hope you enjoyed the topic.